Hello, fellow cyborgs, and welcome to another Good Morning and a Pajama Sunday. Last time I did one of these, I was all like cozy in my flannel pajamas with a cup of tea, and actually I was sweating. Today, it's legitimate because it's raining outside. It's like gloomtastic, the perfect weather to encourage you to just leave those pajamas on. It's the rest of everything else can wait. Just stay put. Just get back into bed. First thing though is pajamas, because I last time I didn't, like you guys saw enough of my pajamas, but I would really like to talk to you about my pajamas today, which consists mostly of this guy. It's a Co-optitude t-shirt, and that's their catchphrase. Let's play this effer. Co-optitude is a video game playing show hosted by Felicia Day and her brother Ryan. They are a hoot. They are on their like 80-somethings episode of Co-optitude. So if you enjoy watching other people play video games and getting sassy with one another, I highly recommend you check that out. Up next, super very important, is what I'm drinking. I've come drinking Paris tea. Remember last time Paris tea was what I'd been enjoying and had run out of loose leaf tea? Of course, you guys watch these over and over again and just memorize my life. I bought the 1 pound bag this time. So hopefully this will last me quite a bit longer than the little tin that I had before. And I'm sipping it in my much battered TARDIS Doctor Who travel mug. Why don't you leave in the comments down below what hot beverage you are enjoying whilst watching me blather on, because you have to be enjoying something. If you're not, just pause me, I'll wait, it's no big deal, and go get yourself something lovely to drink. It doesn't have to be a hot beverage too. I mean, by all means, like, just get something nice. The other tea news that I want to talk to you guys about is that I recently solidified in my mind the idea that I love matcha lattes, which is like a green tea latte, but instead of being made with green tea leaves, it's made with matcha powder, which is, I believe, from the same plant, but the way that it's processed accentuates the green tea flavor whilst eliminating most of the bitterness, which is a common issue with green tea. If you're a green tea drinker, you know what I'm talking about. I was looking up on the internets, as you do, for recipes for making them at home because I enjoy them, but I don't enjoy spending $5 for them and having to be outside of my pajamas. David's Tea has a matcha essentials toolkit where they have like a perfectly portioned bowl, a traditional Japanese bamboo whisk for whisking the matcha powder, and then a measuring spoon for like the perfect teaspoon of tea. It's not necessary, right? But it's pretty. So I talked with my flatmate, and she and I have decided to get ourselves that kit for Easter, which is coming up on the 5th of April this year, ridiculously early. Like, the Easter Bunny does not even have time to get those eggs painted. So that's what we're going to treat ourselves to: the tea essentials and some matcha powder from David's Tea this Easter, and then I can make us matcha green tea and matcha lattes whenever we darn well please, practically. So there you go. Those are my tea stories for you. The next segment is talking to you about the books that I have been reading, I'm going to be reading soon. First, I want to talk about Allegiant and the Divergent trilogy, which I just finished. I'm not going to give any spoilers for this book. I'm just going to talk about my feelings of the trilogy as a whole now that I have completed it. I completed the trilogy because I wanted to have read the source material before seeing the movie, since I had time and these books are really quick to get through relatively. I also wanted to complete the trilogy because my personal book club is doing a meetup talking about the trilogy as a whole, and I wanted to come prepared, honest kid that I still am. But I didn't enjoy Divergent, I didn't enjoy Insurgent, I enjoyed Allegiant a little bit more. The ending gave me some feelings, not as much as it should have if I had been properly connected with the characters and the plot in the book. But having finished it, I don't think there's anything that I couldn't have gleaned from a synopsis of these books. There wasn't anything I think that I would have really missed from a synopsis, or that I would have missed out on considering I wasn't a huge fan. But it's done. I've completed a young adult trilogy already this year, so that's nice. Then the rest of the books that I have to show you are all like fairyland themed. Right now I'm reading the second book in the Fairyland series. This is the girl who fell beneath fairyland and led the revels there. I did a book review of the first book in this series, linked down below, and I am enjoying this one so much so far. It's like picking up an old friend who's just wonderful and uses the best language and enjoys the same things that you do. So I may do a gushing review about this later. We'll have to see, but I'm really enjoying this one. The next book that I'm also currently reading is The Turnip Princess and Other Newly Discovered Fairy Tales by Franz Xaver von Schoenwerth. I don't know, I don't speak German, but that's the name he's getting from me. And these are Bavarian oral stories that were collected by von Schoenwerth in the mid part of the 1800s, and he collected them to preserve Bavarian culture. And Bavaria is, I believe, an eastern northern German province, so they're German. But then his manuscripts were lost in a bureaucratic building in Germany for years and years, and they were just recently discovered in 2009, I believe. And so these are all raw, unfiltered, unpolished tales, unlike the Brothers Grimm's tales. So you really will get a sense of what people actually thought of women and men and fairy stories and what adventures should be. And so far, it's been very enjoyable. My only complaint of the tales is that, but this was common in oral storytelling, they never asked why or how did that come to be. The listeners always asked, and then what, and then what? So you end up getting these like plot cycles where in the course of a paragraph, a prince has become a king in a foreign land and also like murdered 17 creatures in a paragraph, because it's just the speed. But I am thoroughly enjoying reading these tales with an eye toward that would be really fun to retell. That would be really fun to flesh out. So I'm getting some NaNoWriMo ideas in this, so I'll keep you updated on that. And then the third book I have to show you and talk about, I ordered this and The Turnip Princess from Barnes & Noble, which is a chapters-like bookstore in the States. This is their Barnes & Noble's like super fancy bound edition of Andrew Lang's fairy tales from the colored fairy books, the Rainbow Fairy books. But look at how gorgeous this is, guys. Oh my gracious. I'm kind of drooling. I don't think I've ever had this like reaction to a book before that I can remember, but like this is love. The front paper, I don't remember what it's called. I watch so much BookTube and I can't remember this, but barn owls and feathers and this lovely red and periwinkle. This book is just luscious, and then it's gold foil edges. It's just a luscious book. And then there are also lovely illustrations punctuated inside. We're going to be friends. So Andrew Lang was another collector folklorist of tales, and he had a series of, I think it's 12, colored fairy books where he went to a specific region and collected the fairy tales he liked and put them into these volumes of fairy tales. The first one was the Blue Fairy Tale book, in which you will find, I believe, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty, the classic fairy tales. And then he goes to the Red Fairy book, which I believe is like Russian, and then there's green, olive, orange, gray, violet, pink, yellow, brown keeps going. So I wanted to show you this beautiful baby that I got because more people need it in their life, I think. Next, I'm going to talk to you about movies. I am planning on seeing Insurgent in the movie theaters sometime this month, and also the new Cinderella movie. You know what I'm even more excited to watch in theaters is finally, well, not maybe in theaters, but getting to Jupiter Ascending eventually. I wanted to see it when it first came out, but somehow life happened, and I still haven't seen it. But then also the eventual live-action Beauty and the Beast movie. Oh my gosh. But one movie that I have just been obsessing over for the past 3 weeks has been the 2012-2013 Anna Karenina movie with Jude Law, Alexander Johnson, I believe is his name, and Keira Knightley. I pointed to the train. So at first I wasn't sure if I liked this movie. It has a very dreamlike, surreal quality to it, which I wasn't expecting in a historical novels adaptation. And so I was telling people around me that either I want to forget all about it or watch it again. And it turned out that watch it again was the actual response I was going to be applying to this film. This world is really fleshed out to a point where I want to read Anna Karenina now. Which is a big step because I aspire to read classic literature, but I would only, I think, enjoy myself on an academic level of just like, oh, look what I read and understood. I'm proud of myself, rather than, what's gonna happen? I don't know, the feelings. So thank you, filmmakers, for making me actually want to read a classic. But if you haven't seen this, I would sincerely recommend that you check it out, especially if you want just like a sumptuous period piece to just like relax in front of, practically, because that's what you're kind of gonna get in this. Excellent actors in this, excellent acting, costumes are divine. Please check it out. The next two movies I'm going to talk about star Bette Davis, who is a very famous Academy Award winning actress who was most popular during the silver screen era, so like the 1930s, 40s, 50s. And the first movie I saw her in was Now Voyager. This is a lovely movie about a old spinster who gets a second breath in life and learns to actually live and love and enjoy what she has, even though the people around her criticize her for not sticking to social norms, and even though she comes from a very damaged, very threadbare self-esteem level. She learns to love herself, and just to the people who can't see her behind her failings as a woman. But Bette Davis is just, she's got gumption, but it's subtle. But she's not a doormat. There's definitely power in her that you can just see is there, but you can see that she like actively restrains it. She's just a woman with a capital W. The next Bette Davis movie that I've picked up this weekend is called Dark Victory. The story of this is that there is a young heiress, she's like 23, and she's dying. The story, I think, is about how the people around her are grieving the loss of her while she's still there, and how she lives out the last days of her life. I think this movie is really about learning how to live rather than knowing you're going to die. But she's so young in this one. It is just adorable to see like very young Bette Davis just being, finally, I have one last segment for you lovely cyborg viewers, and that is my crochet or knitting project section. So I don't know if I've mentioned it really well enough before, but I crochet and knit. I'm actually a certified knitting teacher in the United States, and I am also at the moment giving my flatmate crochet lessons every week. Right now, I am working on a blanket project, and it is called the Log Cabin Blanket. My pattern is from verypinkknits.com. I will leave a link down below. Stacy is who taught me how to knit virtually through her YouTube videos. This woman is amazing. I love watching everything she comes out with. This is a free pattern from her, and she also has a 30-minute tutorial video to get you through the basics and the only like, what do you mean parts of the blanket. This pattern was originally adapted by her. It's a very old pattern. It's an old quilting technique for using up scraps, and her pattern was conceived to use up scraps as well. You have just lots of little squares and rectangles that are knit up connected to one another. The smallest square here only takes 10 yards of yarn, and the longest strip up here only takes about 30 yards of yarn. I'm actually not knitting this with scraps. I bought yarn specifically for this project because I don't have a lot of scraps. I bought 2 skeins of each color, and I'm just going to work until I'm done. Here's the other square that I've done. So I've been really enjoying making this. It's all just garter stitch and then picking up stitches, and there's really not a difficult pattern for you to have to memorize, so I can just listen to an audiobook really intently and just click clack knit away. It's been so much fun. I knit up these 2 pieces whilst listening to the audiobook of Wool by Hugh Howey, which is amazing. If you would like a science fiction book, post-apocalyptic book, even if you're not a huge fan of this genre, I'm not a big post-apocalyptic fan, or you need like a gateway book for getting into science fiction, I recommend Wool by Hugh Howey. It's awesome. That is all I have for you today, my lovely cyborgs. I hope you have a fabulous, relaxing Sunday. I hope you read wonderful books, peruse some wonderful comic books, watch some lovely movies, and knit some lovely garments or accessories, whatever you choose to fill your day with. Cheers to you, and until next time, continue to be lovely.